One of the suspects in the Boston bombings died earlier today after a fierce battle with police.
The two men are reportedly brothers from a region of Russia near Chechnya, an area that's been plagued by an Islamic rebellion. Charlene Israel has the story.
Police locked down the Boston suburb of Watertown as the massive manhunt zeroed in. Overnight, FBI and other officers tracked down the suspects, leading to gunfire and explosions. This morning, police confirmed that one suspect was killed in a shootout with police. One officer was injured and is in critical condition. That left the second suspect on the left in the white hat on the loose, considered armed and very dangerous. Boston Police Commissioner Ed Davis said in a press conference, quote, "We believe this is a terrorist. We believe this is a man that's come here to kill people." This all began after a robbery was reported near the Massachusetts Institute of Technology campus. Shortly after, an MIT police officer was found shot and killed in his vehicle. The two suspects then carjacked an SUV. When they stopped to get gas, the owner of the car escaped, and police responded, resulting in a high-speed car chase that led to the Watertown neighborhood.
Several explosive devices were discharged from the car at the police officers. In the exchange of the gunfire, we believe that one of the suspects was struck and ultimately taken into custody. A second suspect was able to flee from that car.
Explosive ordnance teams are now sweeping the streets, making sure any explosives have been safely disarmed. All of this comes only one day after the FBI released these surveillance images of the suspects. Charlene Israel, CBN News.
Our prayers go out to the family of that slain officer, and our prayers also for the protection of the police, the National Guard, who are trying to close in on the second suspect, this terrorist. Pray for a quick resolution to this. Lee Webb has more of our top stories from the CBN newsroom. Lee?
Gordon, the Boy Scouts of America is expected to release its recommendations Monday on whether to allow gays. Then next month, hundreds of Boy Scouts delegates will decide if those recommendations become policy. Heather Sells has that story.
In January, word that the Boy Scouts might lift their ban on gay members erupted into a PR nightmare. Gay activists gathered more than 1 million signatures, and the Scouts stalled on making a decision.
I think Scouting right now is trying to manage some tensions. One tension is a lot of troops and units in the Northeastern that are sponsored by more liberal churches against the tension in the South and in Texas that have a lot of conservative churches.
Churches sponsor more than 2/3 of all Scout units. The largest are the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the United Methodist Church, the Catholic Church, and Baptist churches. So far, Southern Baptist leaders and Catholic bishops have taken public stands against allowing gays, and at least one group is coming together to oppose it. OnMyHonor.net founder John Stemberger says the Scouts stand to take a huge hit if they allow open homosexuality.
I think you'd see a mass exodus, not only of major denominations, but just of common sense parents saying, you know what, we can't trust Scouting anymore. There's not that moral consistency throughout the program.
Many conservatives point to Canada as an example of what could happen. After making a similar change in 1999, Scouting membership there dropped more than 50% to less than 100,000 today. And problems aren't limited to the boys. Girl Scouts in the U.S. have been losing ground since 2003. That decline could be traced to 1993, when they dropped the word God from their Pledge of Honor, allowing girls to substitute whatever word they wanted. That move, plus concerns about a liberal curriculum, prompted Patty Garibay to found American Heritage Girls.
Parents really want to teach their kids right from wrong, and they want to do it not just through Sunday school, but through everyday life.
At more than 600 troops and growing, this new group emphasizes biblical principles, outdoor activities, and a pledge to love God. Whatever decision the Boy Scouts make, it may no longer be possible to move forward without losing members on one side of the issue or the other. And there are indications that the Scouts stand to lose significantly more if they change course. Heather Sells, CBN News.
The prosecution has rested its case against abortion doctor Kermit Gosnell. The final witness testified she saw Dr. Gosnell and staff members kill babies that had been born alive. Despite the gruesome nature of the trial, it still isn't getting much coverage from the major media, and it's been going on for 5 weeks. John Jessup has our story, though, from Philadelphia.
It may be all smiles for these teens dancing in downtown Philadelphia, but just steps away in this courthouse, the trial of 72-year-old late-term abortion doctor Kermit Gosnell has driven many to anger and tears.
It's really the first time that an African-American abortionist in an African-American neighborhood was preying on his own people for profit.
Gosnell faces the death penalty for 8 counts of murder, one in the death of a 41-year-old woman who overdosed while in his care, the others for killing 7 babies by cutting their spines with scissors after they reportedly had been born alive. Past patients describe his now shuttered abortion clinic as a house of horrors.
And I remember just walking through and looking, and I seen some women that looked half dead.
In reviewing the case, grand jury members said it was a failure to report and enforce broken violations that led to the clinic's deplorable conditions, including blood-stained furniture and walls, unsterilized medical equipment that spread venereal diseases, and fetal remains stored in paper bags and plastic jugs.
We are looking at a killing field of human beings, because one person and a lot of people didn't have the courage to go ahead and follow up and make sure that there were safe conditions in that abortion clinic.
Dannenfelser and others blame former Pennsylvania Governor Tom Ridge, a pro-choice Republican, for ending clinic inspections in the 90s.
Unless you are a pro-life governor, you're probably not going to have the backbone and the courage to go ahead and enforce the regulations as they're put on the books.
She and others don't limit the blame to state and city authorities. Critics point out the media have dropped the ball, too.
I've been doing this for 25 years, and I don't recall any big league media, mainstream media, ever being shamed into doing a story.
Hardly any major news outlets covered the case, but then a liberal commentator railed against reporters in this USA Today column for originally failing to cover Gosnell's trial. J.D. Mullane writes for the Bucks County Courier-Times and has been described as the lone reporter at the trial from the beginning. He believes the case and the grand jury's report has the potential to reshape the national debate over abortion. CBN News first reported on the grand jury's findings back in February 2011.
I am convinced that if only half of what is in that report were known to the American public, given coverage by, the mainstream media, especially the TV networks, Roe versus Wade and the unfettered right to an abortion would be as vigorously debated in America as the Second Amendment is after the Sandy Hook Elementary School massacre. I'm convinced of it. It is that bad.
But not bad enough for the White House to weigh in. When asked about President Obama's opinion earlier this week, Press Secretary Jay Carney said the president was aware of the case and does not and cannot take a position on an ongoing trial.
In its report, the federal grand jury described Dr. Gosnell's clinic as a drug mill by day and an abortion mill by night. Even though the Women's Medical Society is now closed and Dr. Gosnell awaits the jury's verdict, many wonder how many other clinics, just like Gosnell's, may be operating under the radar. John Jessup, CBN News, Philadelphia.
Gordon, back to you.
Well, this case is just horrifying. And when you start considering that the major media are not covering it, and then when that's pointed out, there's actually critics of the coverage that is being made, that it's too focused on the abortions and not focused on the 41-year-old woman who died. Well, under the case itself, that charge doesn't carry a death penalty. That was criminal negligence on the part of the doctor because he gave her too many pain pills and she died from respiratory failure in the clinic. Well, that was a manslaughter charge, if you will. It's still a murder charge, but it's third degree. You don't get the death penalty for it. The death penalty case is because 7 infants were born in that clinic and they were alive, and witnesses saw the doctor and his staff kill them. It's horrible. And why can't we have a national debate on the partial birth abortion, and can we please end it, and end it today? This stuff is horrific, and it was going on unsupervised with no inspections, and I tell you, Terry, it just makes you so angry that we can't defend the helpless. These children were helpless.
The voiceless. You know, here's the other thing that is really frustrating about that is it always comes with the tagline, except where the life of the mother is at risk. If you understand how partial birth abortion happens, that procedure puts the mother's life at risk far more than anything else that she could be confronted with. It's so unbelievable. And this has only solidified what we've said before about conservative issues and the way the media covers them. We hope we see a change in that.
Pastor Saeed Abedini's physical condition, we're told, is getting worse. He's being held in a prison in Iran, basically because he's a Christian. His wife, Nagma, made a statement on the American Center for Law and Justice website. She said, "We need to speak louder until Saeed is home safely on U.S. soil." She and the ACLJ are asking Christians to pray for and support Pastor Saeed. You can go to cbnnews.com to find out more about Pastor Saeed's situation and what you can do to help. Operation Blessing teams help repair a West African orphanage. Mother Edith started this orphanage with only one child she found on the side of the road. Today, she cares for nearly 100 children, many of them orphaned by war, poverty, and disease. Operation Blessing teams help repair and reinforce the mud brick walls of the orphanage with concrete. They also painted the interior and exterior, put in new floors, and replaced the roof. Mother Edith told the Operation Blessing staff, "The joy that I have here now is the work you are doing here." You can find out more about Operation Blessing by going to the website at ob.org.